Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Okay, so now we from group 7 will be present our topic, which is investing in common stock types of Sukuk. So now I will introduce our presenter. First presenter is me myself, Nurul Nabiha binti Mazlan. Second presenter is Wadatu Izzah binti Muhammad Nuraji. Third presenter is Zahratul Ain binti Omar Zaki, and last presenter is Siti Hanis Nasuha binti Yahmin.
Before we start, there are 6 contents for our presentation today. The first one, introduction. The second one, stock, common stock. The third one, Sukuk. And next, stock market and Sharia indices. And then profit and dividends. And the last one, conclusion.
Okay, so now I will explain about stock, but in this slide we will more focus to common stock. Okay, here in this slide I will explain about what is common stock. Okay, common stock is a type of security that represent equity ownership in a company. Okay, common stock also can be defined as a certificate of legal document that represent the ownership of the organization. Okay. For your information, holder of common stock has the right over the company income and certain rights such as voting regarding company future. This is contrast with preferred stock.
In a nutshell, common stock are the most common type of stock issued by public companies. It gives shareholders the right to participate in the decision-making process regarding the selection of the company top management members, in particular, board members.
Okay, so now I will explain about Sukuk. With the rise of Islamic finance, Sukuk have become extremely popular since year 2000, when the first such product were issued in Malaysia. Okay, so what is the meaning of Sukuk? Okay, Sukuk is an Islamic financial certificate similar to a bond in Western finance that complies with Islamic religious law, commonly known as Sharia. Okay, as we all know, Islamic law prohibits what is known as riba, or what we understand as interest in the West. Okay, therefore, traditional Western debt instrument cannot be used as a viable investment vehicle or ways to raise capital for a business. So, to prevent this, Sukuk were created in order to link the returns and cash flow of debt financing to a specific asset being purchased, effectively distributing the benefit of that asset. Thus, Sukuk also represent aggregate and undivided share of ownership in a tangible asset as it relates to a specific project or a specific investment activity. So, as an investor in a Sukuk, therefore does not own a debt obligation owed by the bond issuer, but instead owns a piece of the asset that is linked to the investment.
Next point is characteristic of investment. Islam encourages human beings to use the capital and wealth to be invested and developed. However, man should not forget that all such wealth belong to Allah. As a human being, we are only a caliph entrusted to preserve and use the property to achieve al-falah. On this topic, I'm going to explain 2 subtopics, which is characteristic of common stock and type of sukuk. First, we have a preference of liquidation. What is preference for liquidation is common shareholder who stand the greatest risk of loss in the case of liquidation have an insecure interest in the reporting entity's remaining net asset after all the claims and preference have been satisfied. Second is dividends. Dividends given to common shareholder are not always guaranteed and might change over the time. Although common stockholder have the right to a return and regularity to is unknown. For example, a business could not have enough revenue to pay dividends to stockholders. Third is voting. Common shareholder often have a reporting entity's voting power. Each share of common share owned by an investor entitles them to 1 vote. These rights mostly pertain to company policies and decision-making processes. Fourth is a term. Typically, there is no redemption date for common stock. Investors in common stock have less duties because they are a passive holder. And the last one is per value. Common stock has no par value or very little of it. Common stock are recognized to perform better than securities deposit, bonds, and other types of investment in terms of returns. Additionally, there are no restrictions on how much money investors can make from their purchase of common stock shares. Next is type of sukuk. There are various types of sukuk nowadays. According to the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution, there are 14 different types of sukuk. Among them are sukuk ijarah, which is ijarah is to lease the benefit right of the asset to another party based on an agreed price and period. Ijarah is the right to use goods without transfer of ownership. Second is sukuk salam. Salam is a contract of sale and purchase of goods whose amount and criteria have been clearly determined if payment made in advance and the goods are delivered later at a mutually agreed time. On the other hand, it describes investment certificates that are issued at the same value and are intended to raise capital, or in other words, the certificate holder will issue capital in advance and will be obtained at the certain time that have been set. Third is sukuk istisna. Istisna is the sale and purchase of asset in the form of financing between parties, and the specification, method, and time of delivery as well as the price of the asset is determined based on the agreement of many parties. The purpose of sukuk is obtain funds that will be used to produce goods. Fourth is sukuk musyarakah. Musyarakah is collaboration between two or more parties to combine capital in money or the other form. Profit will be divided in accordance with the ratio or amount that has been agreed, while losses will be incurred in accordance with the amount of capital investment respectively. These sukuk are suitable for financing large commercial projects such as factory expansion and construction projects. Number 5 is sukuk mudharabah. Mudharabah is collaboration between two or more parties, namely one party as a provider and the other party as entrepreneur. 6 is sukuk wakalah. Wakalah is an agreement of delegation of authority by one party to other party in certain matter that is a project or activity managed by a certain agent who is represented in the interest of the sukuk holder. Next is sukuk musaqah, which is cooperation in the field of watering agriculture crops, where the farm owner gives the right to manage the farm to another party to do watering and maintenance of crops. Profit derived from agriculture produce and share according to the agreement, watering and fruiting crops, paying to the operational activities and treatment of crops. Last is sukuk muzara'ah. Muzara'ah is a cooperation in the field of agriculture where the owner of the farm gives the right of implementation to another party, namely the farmer, while the profit are divided according to the agreement. In accordance with the Sharia principle that are the basis, the fund from the issuance of sukuk can only be used for matters that are not contrary to Sharia principle, such as cannot involve investment matters in the sector of gambling, alcohol, usury, conventional banking, and others. So that's all from characteristic of investment. I will pass to the next presenter.
My name is Zahratul Ain and I will continue this presentation with the stock market and Sharia indices. So, what is the stock market? Stock market is a market or place where stock buying and selling activities take place by various types of companies, where everyone can buy share of companies listed on the market. And in Malaysia, it is known as Bursa Malaysia. Bursa Malaysia is the only stock market that provides stock market services from listing, trading, clearing, settlement and depository. Moreover, until today, Bursa Malaysia has placed more than 900 companies on the stock trading board, which is also a destination for investors who want to invest in the Bursa Saham in terms of institutions and retail as well as from within and outside the country. And among the roles of Bursa Malaysia is it is a platform that brings together the investors to sell and buy shares legally and securely. Apart from that, Bursa Malaysia also provides various facilities to assist investors in selling and buying shares. In fact, it also regulates the movement and development of the stock market in Malaysia. Next, it is also involved to protect the interests of investors. Next, we move to the types of stock market in Bursa Malaysia. Bursa Malaysia is also known to have 3 stock trading boards. Among them are main market, S market and also lead market. Each types of market is different based on the categories and conditions that have been set, and the condition sets are addressed to companies that wishing to enter the stock market, which is in Bursa Malaysia. Firstly, main market. Main market is a market that lists giant companies with larger capital and is usually for large companies with a strong trading records, and it's usually companies that are sustainable and meet standards in terms of size and operational quality, where the company also achieves a record of minimum profit performance measured from market capitalizations. For example, a company established with a net profit of at least 20 million and above for a period of 3 until 5 years backwards. Furthermore, the minimum net profit is 6 million before listings. Among the examples of companies listed in the main market are such companies with each Arjina Motors, ERB Highcom and Telekom Malaysia. In addition, main market also gives company greater visibility through capital markets and a clear platform to raise funds from institutional investors and retail investors. Secondly, S market. S market lists small capitalized technologies companies. They have various sizes but do not need a minimum track record to be listed on the S market board. A company does not require a minimum working capital requirement and record. Among the examples of such companies are Revenue Group, Berhad and Care Plus. And thirdly, lead market. The meaning of lead market is leading, entrepreneur, accelerate and platform. Lead market is the third board in Bursa Malaysia, which is more for small and medium enterprises. In addition, lead market providing SMEs and other companies greater access to funds through the capital market, and this lead market is also accessible to sophisticated investors. For example, it can be accessed by high net worth investors. So, for investors who want to sell and buy stock or other product in Bursa Malaysia can identify 3 types of markets before making an investment. And to identify these 3 types of markets on Bursa Malaysia board, they have been categorized by color. For example, main market is turquoise and S market is purple. Furthermore, in globally, all the countries also have their own stock market, which are also called Bursa. However, there are differences between Bursa Malaysia and overseas Bursa. Among them are the differences in terms of quantity or capital invested, Sharia aspect, platform sophistications and also risk. Other than that, on Bursa Malaysia, there are about 700 Sharia compliant stock. However, globally, it was found that there was 30,000 more Sharia compliant shares, which is more than Malaysia. So, how to buy share or stock in Malaysian stock market? To buy and sell shares on Bursa Malaysia, investors must open Central Depository System account (CDS) and trading account through broker, which is it can be registered on Bursa Malaysia through online. Through this account, it allows you to buy or sell the shares. Everyone can invest in stock or shares, and it is suitable for all age as long as the investor has a CDS account, which Central Depository System account, brokerage account and put the capital. But to open and register the CDS account, there are some conditions that must be complied with, such as the investors must be 18 years old and above and other conditions. But in the United States, young people as young as 12 years old have invested and they are good at buying and selling company shares, such as buying shares of Netflix, this day, and so on. And this is because they have been taught from an early age. Next, we move to the Shariah indices. On Bursa Malaysia, there are various types of products listed and traded such as exchange trade fund, ETF, real estate investment trust, REIT, exchange trade bond and sukuk, warrant, index bond and Shariah compliant products, derivative products and also offshore market. Also, on Bursa Malaysia, it is divided into Bursa Malaysia I, which is the world's first fully Shariah compliant platform and was launched in 2016. The Bursa Malaysia I platform is a platform for investors who want to invest not only in Shariah compliant product, but it also makes full use of Shariah compliant services. So it's like a new landscape that separates between conventional and Shariah for investors who want to invest based on Shariah. And to invest in Shariah compliant Bursa Malaysia I, investor needs to open a CDS account and Shariah trading account through an Islamic broker. Then only then will all your sales or trade be done in accordance with Shariah. Next, how to determine or define the stock is Shariah compliant or not. Bursa Malaysia offers a wide range of Shariah compliant quality stocks. Development of a securities examination method by the Securities Commission Malaysia (SC), Shariah Advisory Council (SAC) to determine the Shariah compliance of securities listed and traded on Bursa Malaysia. Shariah compliance reviews are conducted for the securities of companies listed on the exchange and during the initial public offering of companies. Company is reviewed based on the latest audit, annual financial statement. Investor can refer to the official website of the Securities Commission Malaysia (SC) for the latest list of Shariah compliant stock. For example, it can be seen that Shariah compliant securities marked with S.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Hanis Nasuha binti Yahmin. I will continue the presentation with the profit and dividend. Firstly, we go to the profit and dividend in common stock. The majority of people who investing go toward purchasing common stock, which is sort of stock that signifies the ownership of a firm. The performance of common stock is superior to bond and preferred share, as the common stock offer the most potential for long-term return. Next, the common stock or common share provide the shareholder with the opportunity to vote and claim in future earning, which is profit in the form of dividend. When it comes to time to elect board member who supervise the important document made by management, investor typically get one vote for every share of stock they possess. In determining the dividend is the measurement of the company current and predicted profit, including the pattern or continuity of the company previous payout. The level of debt, which is equity, also considered as the one of the elements that influence dividend payment. For example, a company with a low debt ratio is more likely to pay dividends since the corporation must pay dividend despite the debt. Meanwhile, if it significant potential for the growth, then the firm does not pay for the dividend. Because of this, profit are more beneficial rather than distribute as a dividend. Also, when a firm having difficulty, it is the most crucial moment to have a claim on its profit, because the company stockholder have the least amount of claim to the business asset. ROA, which is return on asset, can determine whether company profitability affect the number of dividend it's paid out by looking at current profit, cash flow, and stock prices. Lastly, there is a connection between dividend and profitability of common stock, since dividends are calculated in a percentage of a company yearly profit, so it's then that the profitable company will pay the higher dividend. Then we go to the next slide, which is profit and dividend of Sukuk. Okay, firstly, Sukuk is a financial instrument that is consistent with Islamic law and is comparable to bond as well as share of stock. Next, as Islamic law prevent what known as a riba or defined as interest in conventional term, Typically, conventional debt instrument cannot be employed as viable investment vehicle or strategy to acquire funds for a company. Therefore, Sukuk was invented to link the profit and cash flow of loan financing to a specific item of being acquired. It is by sharing the advantage of the benefit. Next, this instrument also offer medium to long-term fixed or variable rates of return, and it is provide regular monthly income during the investment period, along with a simple and efficient settlement. Then, Sukuk are also considered as a liquid instrument since they may be traded in the secondary market. The next point is Sukuk represent aggregate and undivided share of ownership in tangible asset on a given project or a certain investing activity, which is Sukuk investor does not hold a financial obligation owing by the bond issuer, but instead own a piece of the asset tied to the investment. This shows that the Sukuk investor, unlike the bondholder, receive a part of profit by the underlying asset. Lastly, Sukuk is the term that stands for balanced distribution of the property. It's referred to a system that enables the investor to have access for the actual profit that are produced as a consequence of a firm in operating the balanced dividend. So, the conclusion in this presentation is, firstly, common stock have a high risk and may not be ideal for risk-averse investor because the value of the share are vulnerable of volatility and hence tend to vary often. But common stock come with tremendous growth potential and investor may make the most of it if they lodge their funds in this investment alternative for the long time terms. So, it can conclude that investors with the great risk appetite and significant investment horizon will find a common stock as a feasible investment option. Meanwhile, in recent years, Sukuk has become an increasingly important contributor to the growth of Islamic finance, especially in the Islamic capital market. Sukuk also an excellent instrument for both the management of existing liquidity and the development of the new investment. Since conventional short-term bond, commercial paper and notes all contain interest, contrary to the Sharia principle, has an enormous amount of untapped potential as seen by the brisk expansion of the Sukuk market in Malaysia and globally. That's all from us. Thank you for listening and giving your concentration in this presentation. Thank you.